Hey folks, so today I'm going to talk to you about a process that I myself went through, and it's for people who meet someone in a different country, assuming you're from the US or you're a resident here in the US. But if you meet someone in another country and you hit it off and you ultimately want to be together, there is a process to have the person brought here to the US, and that process is by a visa. It's a K-1, aka Fiance visa, aka 129F, I believe. But it's a lengthy process, but what you have to be is patient, right? So it's going to take time. It's going to feel like time is going very, very, very slow, but you have to try to keep yourself busy and just hang in there. But K-1 is the process. It's an application. It's not very difficult. There is some reading involved. Some people like to hire lawyers, but I didn't. I did a whole lot of research and reading, and I'm going to try to share with you that form and kind of what to put on it and what to fill out. So there is a process. It takes time. You got to be patient, and it will all be worth it in the end. Okay, so let's jump into the computer. And I want to show you what you're going to need. So there's a list of items. I attached a cover letter because I'm just overdoing things sometimes. But I want it to be as organized as possible, right? And in my cover letter, and I'll try to list these out somewhere in the notes, but I included my payment, which was $535, and that payment included the application fee for the K-1 and the biometrics. So I believe that's the fingerprinting for either your fiance or your soon-to-be spouse. There's a G-1145 form that I attached, and I'll show you what that is. I attached the I-129F, that's the actual application. And then there was like some supplement. So anytime you hear supplement, that's just some addition of things that I attached as well. So there was a part 1 and then a part 2. Those were referring to questions about me. So my employment history and explanation of how we met. So on the form, they don't give you enough slots, so you have to kind of pencil in or write in on an additional sheet kind of your employment. So that's what the supplement came into play. There was a G325A, I'll show you that as well, and you're going to need that for yourself, and you're going to need that for your future spouse. And it's just some information they request, as well as some photos that you need to, like passport style photos that you'll need. I also attached in mine a divorce judgment because I was previously married, so I had to include that. So the US government, USCIS, by the way, is who we're sending this information to, and that just stands for US Citizenship and Immigration Services. So they want to know all about your past, so I recommend not to lie because they will find out. It's the government, right? But I attached the judgment from the courts, and that has to be a certified copy. And I also included my birth certificate, my US passport visa. It's in my passport, so I included photocopies of those. A letter certifying that I intend to marry my girlfriend or fiance, whoever it is you are looking to bring over. And all that is just a letter saying, hey, I intend to marry this person when they come into the US. And then I also had to attach lots of proof that we had an actual relationship, right? So photos, travel documents, flights, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's pretty much what I attached, trips that we have taken. And all of these have to be copies, and you have to kind of keep this information because you're going to need it again. So definitely don't send off everything and don't have any copies. So make a copy of what you're going to send so that way you still have information. Okay, so here is the instructions, right, for the I-129F, and this ideally is the one that we are concerned about. They have another K-3, I'm not sure what that one is, but the K-1 is the one that you're looking to do. And some people hire a lawyer, but if you read through this, it's fairly, it's straightforward. It's not, in my opinion, too difficult to do on your own. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of planning. And I enjoyed it because it was sort of like investigative work. So I was just looking for things, trying to piece things together. There was, I had to run and make copies of everything. So I enjoyed the process. It gave me something to do. As I mentioned, you have to be very patient with this process, but you want to make sure all of your items are in order before you send it off, because there's something called, I believe it's RFE, I think it's RFE. And if you see that, you don't want that. You don't want to get that from the government, because that just means it's a delay and they're most likely requesting more information, or something was just completely wrong with your application. So we are going to look at the application now, but again, this is just a lengthy document. It says, who may file this form. It goes into general instructions, the filing fees, the biometrics. So that's what I mentioned, that my $535 includes this fee. So there's actually like 2 fees, but I just included one check for everything. They go into appointment information, how to fill out the form, just a lot of information. So black ink, is what they're requesting. So, do what they say. What else? Special instructions for information about you. So again, just a lot of information, right? Like that you have to fill out. And we're going to go over this, and you'll see it in this document here. But I just want to scroll through. So obviously, if you want to read this in your spare time, you can. I'll try to leave the links for some of these in the notes as well. But if I don't, you can find it on the USCIS website by just searching, but just lots of information. So we're gonna hop over here. So this is the actual form, right? This top section, you do not have to worry about. So the USCIS is gonna deal with this. Once they receive it, they're gonna give you an ID number. A number is I don't like this term, alien number of your future spouse. That number is going to be very important. So once they give you that, you're going to have to use that to document or add it onto documents you're sending to them. And you're going to reference that number all the time. So that number is going to be associated it's going to be for your future spouse. But over here, this is where the application starts. So as they mentioned, black ink, please. Alien number, you're not going to put anything there. USCIS online account number, you're not going to put anything there. Then this is your social security number. So make sure you know that. And then you're going to check this box. You can check it. You'll actually be looking at this. You'll have the copy in your hands. But you're going to do the K-1. And here, your full name. So you're going to be your last name, goes in this line, your first name, and then your middle name. If you don't have a middle name, you leave it blank, but definitely first and last name Up over here, if you have used a different name in the past, you're going to want to list that here, just so they're aware if you've had a different last name, if you changed your first name, that sort of thing. Mailing address. So this is going to be where you physically reside right now. Your street address, your apartment, if there's a floor, city, postcode, and as I said, USA. And I believe you can do K-1 for other countries. So if you're in Canada or something, you'll have to look into those instructions. They may be similar. Canada may require something different, but this is for if you're residing in the US and your future spouse is in a different country. If your mailing address is the same as your physical address, you're going to just click yes here. And then the next page is also about you. And it's just more information about your history. So the addresses that you've had, I believe they want 5 years. Yeah. So it's 5 years, the last 5 years. If you've lived at one address for the last 5 years, great. If you haven't, then you're going to have to actually put the first address here. Then there's room for a second address. I don't believe there's a third, but if you do have a third, that's where that supplemental information comes in, and you're going to have to, as it says up here, you're going to have to write in on another sheet of paper that you have a third address or fourth address. Same thing is going to apply to your employment history, right? So they want the last 5 years. So remember, this is still about the individual that is in the US and you want your future spouse to come over. So you're going to put your employer's name here, the physical address where they're located, the city, the state, zip code, country is going to be USA. You can put your title that you held at that company, and then your beginning and end dates of that employment. So remember, this is the past 5 years. So they have another slot for a second employment, and you're going to put that information here as well. So same thing, full name, address, city, state, country, occupation. If that sums for 5 years, then you are done and you can move on. Start and end date, of that last occupation. You can move on, but if you've had a third job, right, then you're gonna have to actually get a piece of paper, write on it that the address, the city, the state, and then you're gonna include it as part 8 as additional information. Okay. Actually, that's where you're going to include it in part 8, additional information. Sorry. And we'll get down to there. So let's see. Other information. This is what you identify as, male or female, your date of birth, whether you're single, married, divorced, widowed. In my case, I had to select this, divorce. I put the place where I was born, the state, the country, and then it asks about your parents. So you're going to want to put your mom's, let's see, your mom or your dad first, it doesn't matter. I put my mom first. So you put their last name now, you put her first name, her middle name if she has one, and then date of birth, female, and then the country where your mom was born goes here, the city, village goes here, and then the country as well goes here. So yeah, that's country 2 times. Why, I don't know, but you just want to be as complete as possible, with this process. And then you move up here to your father, and I put his last name, first name, middle name, date of birth, male, again, country of birth, city of birth, and then country of birth again. and they ask, have you been previously married? So I had to select yes on this one. If you haven't, then you would select no. So I had to select yes and input the former's spouse information here. So just their last name and first name, and then the date that the marriage was considered over or it ended. And that should be on your court document if you're looking for that date. And here's my citizenship information. So again, birth in the US. Hopefully that's the case, but if it wasn't, you'll have to select one of these other ones. But I'm not sure if you need additional information for that. But in my case, birth in the US, right? Have you obtained certification of naturalization? I selected no because I was born here in the US. And then it goes to part 1. Okay, so we leave this information blank because we were born here, so you don't have to enter that information. But if you wasn't, then I'm guessing you would put in your certificate number and the place of issuance and the date. 43 here, it asks if you filed if you filed a form for someone else in the past. In this case, I selected no. If you have, I highly recommend you select yes. And if it asks for additional information, you provide that because they will find out. So again, I said you don't want to lie because they will find out and it could delay or even deny your application. So just be as honest as possible. Again, the A number, we don't have that yet. They're going to be providing that to us later. So this whole section, you do not fill out. You go on to number 48. Do you have any children? And I did not have any children, so I selected no. If you do, again, you have to select yes. It asks for their ages. If you have more than 2 kids, then again, you're gonna have to add it to a piece of paper, and that's gonna come into play in part 8. Okay, so your residence, your state. So you input that here in your country, USA. And then residence 2, let's see, I put New York. Why did I put New York? Well, because I lived in New York in the past. So that's just letting them know, hey, I was a resident of New York before California. So I put New York here and USA. Okay, so now on to the fun part. So your future spouse. So this is information about your beneficiary. So beneficiary is your future spouse, okay? So you're gonna see applicant and beneficiary. Applicant, I believe, is gonna be you because you're filling out this form. Beneficiary is gonna be your future spouse, okay? So I put in her last name and first name and middle name. If they have one, that's what's gonna go there. Again, A number, you're not gonna put anything there. Social security number, you're gonna leave that blank. You are gonna put in the date of birth, okay? You're gonna select their gender and their marital status. The word is always difficult to say. Marital. So whether they're single, married, divorced, or widowed, you're gonna put in the city that they were born in, the country they were born in, and then the country where they're a citizen. Okay, so that goes there. If they've used other names in the past, you're gonna wanna put that because the government may want to look into those names as well. But in her case, I didn't, so I left this area blank. Okay, so now we are on, as you can see, there's 13 pages. We're on to part 2. All right, so this is more information about your future spouse. Again, the street where they are residing, right, where they get mail, the apartment floor, the city, you're gonna want to put the state and the zip code. Providence, I mean, I believe that's state as well. But what I did, I just goofed and I put the actual zip code in both of these fields, which is fine, right? So no harm, no foul. But the country, I put Brazil. And I know it gets tricky, so if you lived here in the US, we just primarily use zip code. Province, we don't really use a lot. And postal code is basically the same as zip code, right? So that's it for that section. So your beneficiary's address history, again, they want the last 5 years. So if your beneficiary lived in one address for the past 10 years, then you only have to put that one address because that covers 5 years worth. So that makes it easy. I had to input 2 physical addresses. So again, street name and city, state, zip code, country, and you have to actually put the date. So from when they started living there to the present, that was my case. Again, if that covers a 5-year span, then you are golden, you're good to go. If not, then you have to come up here and do a physical address, number 2. Again, same information. You want to fill out the street, city, state, zip code, country, and then the from and to dates. Okay, so I guess they want you to be as close as possible. I know sometimes it's difficult to remember, oh, when did I move into this place or when did I move out? But as long as you're in the ballpark, okay? I mean, don't just completely lie, like actually try and put the right information. And then you're gonna go down here to their employment. So again, your future spouse's employment. So again, 5 years, right? Your spouse worked at one location for 5 years, awesome. You only have to put one employer information in here. So that's their name. So similar to what you put in for yourself. So the name, the street address, the city, the state. You want to put their title that they held at that position, and then their start and end date, right? So if it shows 5 years worth, great. That's the only thing that you have to fill out here. It's going to ask for a, sorry, I'm just going along with you guys. It's going to ask for a second employer down here, but again, if it doesn't apply, then you can skip that part and you can go on to the information about their parents, so which is right here. So asking about your future spouse's parents, so you're going to have to gather this information, text or WhatsApp your partner to get it. Or in my case, what I did was I gathered as much information as I could, and I visited Brazil, and I actually needed her signature on one of these documents I'll talk about later. But I obtained that, and when I came back to the US, that's when I finished everything and actually applied, right? So you can definitely plan for this, because you're gonna need photos of your spouse, like 2 passport photos, like physical photos, because you're gonna send it in with all of this information. So I wrote down her mom's last name, her first name, middle if it's applicable, and then the date of birth of her mom, right? And then female, the city or country that she was born in, city, and then the country again. And then you go up here and it asks for the dad's information, so parent 2. I put that information in, male, again, country, city, country. Has your beneficiary ever been previously married? So you just select which one applies. In her case, no. But if it was yes, then you have to put down the previous spouse information right here. Question 37. Has your beneficiary ever been in the US? In my case, no. But if yours has, then you have to put yes, because that's going to come into play, because they'll look at the days spent here and that sort of thing. But select which one applies to you. Let's see. I believe 38 applies to, if you selected yes here, then there's a departure record that needs to go in here, and date of arrival that you'll have to have. Okay, part 2 continued, and we are at date authorized stay. So again, I believe this is if you selected yes to that question that we talked about up here, right? You have to put in this additional information, passport information, travel document. Question 39, do your beneficiary have any children? In my case, no. If yes is your situation, then it asks for the children's name down here, so you have to fill in that information. So that didn't apply to me. So I can jump to this side. Address in the US where your beneficiary intends to live. So this is going to be your address where you are located, right? You're going to put that information here, your street, city, state, zip, your phone number, and then it asks for your beneficiary's physical address in the country they're in. So again, you're going to put your future spouse's information here, same information, their phone number, right, as well. Let's see. Yeah, I did fill out this part. Your beneficiary name and address in his or her native alphabet. So again, this is redundant, but it's their last name, first name, middle name, street address, city, province, state, zip code, and then the country. Okay, we are almost through. So this is information about your beneficiary now. So it asks, is your fiance related to you? I selected no. Question 52, I did not answer. 53, I selected yes on this. They want to know if you guys met in person during the last 2 years before filing this petition. So yes was what I indicated. 54, you have to write in kind of like a brief summary of how you met. So I started it here. I just entered in a few sentences about the first time I went, right? And then you can continue. You can say to be continued on additional document, and that's where you have that white piece of paper, and you can actually either write out or type out the rest of the story, right? I included about a page worth of information on how we met, things we did. So I had that to add to whatever I wrote here. Question 55. Did you meet your beneficiary through any services? I selected no. Then I skipped 56 and 7. If you selected yes, then you have to input this information, but I did not. 58, again, this doesn't apply because I selected no to that question over here. And so this is who's going to be processing the information when your future spouse applies abroad. So you can put the city that they're in or the nearest consulate, right? And the country. Again, so this is going to be your beneficiary will apply for a visa abroad at a U.S. embassy. So you just have to look up where that U.S. embassy is. If an U.S. embassy is not in the city they're in, then you're going to have to look for the closest one. Okay. Criminal background, of course, they want to know this information. So you just have to go through each question and answer it yes or no. In this case, I was no here. This question was no. 2B, that question was no as well. 2C, no. Again, you're just going to go through here and answer all these questions. If you select the yes, then you're going to have to answer some more of these questions down here. Question 4A is what I skipped to. No on that one. 4B didn't apply. Okay, 5A didn't apply. B, C didn't apply. D, I put not applicable. Then the bio information, right? So I put not Hispanic or Latino. You can check whichever one. I mean, this one's not going to make or break your application, but this is your information, right? So your information here, not your future spouse. I put my height, my weight, right? Eyes, hair color, to the best of your knowledge. And then we get down to part 5. Now, this information I advise you to read carefully because you're agreeing to filling this out correctly, right? So right here, petition statement, I selected 1A. I've read and understand, I can read and understand English. I understood every question and information. So you want to select that one. These other ones are if you have someone help you fill this out, that would apply to you. Then you have to include their information. So petitioner, again, petitioner is you, me, right? Petitioner, I'm the petitioner. Beneficiary is future spouse. These terms can be confusing. When I first filled out this application, I had to be absolutely determined, or not determined. I had to be sure who they were talking about, and I wanted to reference the right thing. Okay, so my phone number goes here, so your phone number, your email address, okay, and then that's it for down there, and then back to the top of the page, petitioner's signature. You are signing here, all right? Your signature is going there. The date that you sign it is going to go here. Again, if you had someone help you, you have to put in their information, right? And their mailing address. But if you do not have anyone helping you, then it's just you sign, you date it, and you can move on. Part 6, nothing here if you fill this out yourself. Again, nothing here, interpreter signature if you fill this out yourself. Preparer's full name. I didn't put anything in there because I actually just left that blank. I left the mailing address blank too, because I'm the petitioner. So I said, hey, I can read English and write, and I understood everything. So the preparer's information you don't have to put there. Okay, so I believe the last page. Okay, the last page is preparer as well. So that you don't need. Now down here to part 8, this is where that additional information comes into play if you didn't have space. All right, so you're gonna put your name, your last name, your first name, middle name, no A number. Then you're gonna put the part that you're including additional information for. So in my case, it was on page 4, part 1, and the item number or the question number. So this is where some of that additional, you're not going to be able to write how you met here, but this was actually for the places I've lived, because they only gave you 2 slots, but I needed like 3 more. So down here, I just wrote in the city and the country that I was a resident in, right? And that is, if these other ones apply to you, the 4A, 4B, 4C, right? But mine was just blank. So that's the complete application. Once you have this filled out, this is just part of it. So then you have to actually gather some of the proof that you were in this relationship, within the last 2 years. And that can be photos, that can be flight tickets, hotel receipts, text messages, just anything that is connecting you to that person, right? That you've done in the past few years. So if you took a trip there and you guys took photos together, you can definitely include some of the photos. You don't have to include all of them, but you want to include enough where USCIS isn't suspicious and they don't think that this marriage is a scam, because a lot of people do that. So we'll get more into some of the other information. Actually, no, sorry. So that's the application, right? Now onto that K-1 form that I mentioned. And all this is you want, after you send in this information, you want USCIS to respond to you and say, hey, okay, I received this information, this packet, and it's in our possession. And the way you do that is with this K-1 And all you do here is you have to complete this and attach it to the front of your packet. And petitioner, so your full name is going to go here, or your last name is going to go here, your first name is going to go here, and your middle name if you have one. Then this is going to be the email address that you want them to communicate to you through, right? And then your phone number, because they will text you if they don't send you an email, or they might do both. I think in my case they did both. But again, this is the person in the US. You want to have this be your email and your phone number that you can receive text messages to, right? And this just goes in front of everything. So I wanted to show you that form. And I also want to show you the K-325A. This is the biometrics information. Again, you're going to have to fill this out. So you're going to have to fill this out 2 times, ideally. So one time, this is all of your information, right? The first time you're going to do it, it's your last name, your first name, date of birth, some of the same information they were asking on the other form. You want to put your address. So you don't want your address for the last 5 years. So you list the one you're living in now first, and then you'll list the other 3. Over here, you can put the month and the year that you lived there. And then here's the employment, 5 months worth. Again, some of the similar information that we put on the actual 129F form / K-1. And you want to sign it and date, right? And that's all you do. And you're gonna hang on to this form. Well, I believe you're gonna include it in your packet. I read it off in the beginning. But this is gonna be for like fingerprinting, and they're gonna use your 2 passport size photos to go with this form. So, and the reason I said you're gonna need 2 of these, because one is for you, one is for your spouse. So what I did, I waited because I was visiting. So I waited and I brought this form to Brazil, because she would have to sign it here, right? So you can't forge your signature. I wouldn't recommend that. I wanted her to physically sign it. So I brought it to her and she signed it. We completed everything else up here together, and I had that form. So I had all the forms that I needed, and I had everything from her that I needed at the time for this I-129F, okay? So that is how you fill out this form. It is not too difficult. Again, some people hire lawyers, but I don't think you need to. I don't know how much they charge on average, but I know it's not cheap. And essentially they would be doing the same thing that you would be doing. So gathering all, they're gonna ask you for your photos, any photos you've taken with them, any travel documents, when you can do that yourself and save a few $1,000s and potentially go visit your spouse again before you get your approval, because again, it's gonna take a while. And I wanna say it's gonna take maybe a year, or maybe not a full year, but it's going to take a while. I mean, it just depends on the backlog and how many applications they get. But this is a process that works. And, you know, if you don't mind waiting, this is how you can get them here to the US. Now, I'm sure in your spouse's country, there's a way for you to kind of do this on their side, right? If you're trying to go live over there. So you can ask your spouse about that, or you can look into it. But this is how you get them to the US. So it's simple, right? It's not as complicated as the form looks. It's a lot of pages, so there's a lot of reading involved. But this is actually how you fill out the form. And then there's a bunch of, again, as I mentioned, investigative work where you have to actually go through your records, like emails, text messages, do screenshots, right? And print those out. And you can include those with this application. Maybe I'll make another video on how I actually put the packet together, because I did a binder, so I'll show you my binder. I did a binder, and I have these like little plastic sleeves where I put things in. So I know they don't like staples, so try not to staple anything. You can paperclip your papers, they like that better, but you will want to be as organized as possible. And again, I'll try to list in the notes all the items that I included, and that's kind of the list you want to use as your guide. You may have to include additional things, I don't know, but as long as you're organized and everything looks neat and presentable, you should be fine. Again, once you have your binder completed, run through and make copies of everything, and that way you have a copy. It's kind of like a backup copy, because you're going to need those documents again for the interview. When you do the interview, you're going to have to bring your second binder with you, because one you're going to send off, the second one you're going to have to hang on to. So if you have certified copies of things, so like a birth certificate, I believe that can be a copy. Yes, that can be a copy. Your birth certificate, it can be a copy. So hang on to the original is what I'm ultimately saying. But divorce decree, that's going to have to be a certified copy. So make sure you pay for that, get that, and include it. But everything else can be like photocopies. Even like the photos, I mean, they could be photocopies. Or you could just go to your local like FedEx or Office Depot and have them print out, or Walmart, right, and have them print out the photos, and you can paperclip them. So that's what I did. I went to Walmart and print out like a bunch of photos. It's not that expensive, you know, couple bucks. But again, you don't have to include like 100 photos. I think we included like roughly maybe 7 to 10 photos of us together, like vacationing, and just me over in Brazil, and just showing that it's an actual like relationship, right? But it was a fun process. I mean, looking back, I'm glad I did it because I have more knowledge now and I know how the process works. But again, biggest thing is to be organized. You want to be organized with this, right? Because they will send you requests for additional documents if you don't, and they do reject applications because they have misinformation, or you know, they just don't have enough information. So you want to be organized. You want to be patient, right? Those are two key things, I think, with this process that you have to abide by. And then you have to sit back and wait. I will say, what is it? VisaJourney.com. That was a big help. It's a community. There's other people like you and I, right? That's trying to go along the journey as well. So a lot of people communicate in there, and they share the story. But it's a good resource because they also have additional information in there. So I use that as well. So I'm not sponsored by them, but I remember that I did use that resource. So take advantage of it. You can create an account. But yeah, have fun with the process. Let your future spouse know, like, hey, we'll be together. It's just gonna take some time, and I think you guys will be just fine. So, good luck. All right, take care until the next video. Oh, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I will try to share more information about the process a little bit, but please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Peace.